How's it going, everybody? I hope you're having a fantastic day. I wanted to make a video talking about what makes a class good. What makes them viable, what makes them playable. You know, what are you looking for in a class that makes them good? I'd be curious to know what you guys look for, what you guys, you know, when you're looking at whatever unit you have and you're looking at their skills or what they can use, what they can't use. What are you looking at? What are you looking for that makes them, you know, viable to you, makes them worth your time, makes them fun to use? You know, what are your go-tos? I'm going to tell you what mine are. I'm going to tell you what makes a class good in my opinion, and what makes them worth using, makes them viable, and just makes them all overall great. First, I want to say the number one thing that makes a class good right off the gate is they do not need any type of gear or weapons or accessories to perform well. You can give them the most basic stuff in the game that you get at the beginning, and they can equip that and have it on all game and still be useful. Now, you're probably not going to do that, but a good class, you're not going to see a huge decrease in their performance because of that. Obviously, you don't want to do that in a practical sense because you're just making the game harder, but maybe, you know, people do runs like that. Maybe somebody should do a base gear run. You know, we got the tarot runs and the no incap runs. I'd be curious, somebody do a base gear run where you only equip the very starter gear that you can find at in chapter 1, and that's all you're allowed to use and equip. That'd be interesting. But that's the number one thing I look for is this class gear dependent? And if so, it's not that great. Because if it needs to have a certain set of gear, or constantly have the best gear, or have a certain weapon to perform and be useful, it loses some points in my book. So that's the first thing. The second thing I look for that's also very important is I look at their actual skills. And I don't just mean like weapons they can equip and stuff. I mean, what skills do they have that are unique to them? Not even skills that are shared, like Rampart Aura or Pincer Attack or what have you. Like in a Terror Knight, obviously, they have Lament of the Dead, which the only other class to really get this kind of thing is Denim, and he gets the Fearful Impact. So, or Lord Denim, not Denim, Lord Denim. So I look at what's unique to the class. Like I look at it, and I don't have every class here, but obviously I have the internet and I can look that up. But I look at what it has that's unique, and then based on that, I go, okay, so I'm gonna build the unit around that, because if you're not gonna use unique skills to the unit, there's really no reason to necessarily use that unit over another one. Like, let's say Terror Knight and Knight. If I was doing a Terror Knight and I wasn't using Fear and I was building it like a Knight, doing like Rampart Aura and like, I don't know, whatever, I'd better just using a Knight in that sense, because the Knight's more built for that role. So I find that unless you are being specific to a class that defines them, there's no reason to use stuff another class can use, unless there's no other options, I guess. But that's how I see it. And then the same thing with like spells. Obviously, you want to use spells that are maybe unique to the class or that you're not using. But I don't see the point in building a class a way that another class already exists that probably already specializes in that better. If that makes sense to people. So those are the main two things I look for: the lack of gear dependence and what is unique on that class that makes it fun or unique or different and makes it viable. Now, if we look at a class like a cleric here, which is just wonderful, I look at the class and I go, okay, it has stuff that's, all this stuff's irrelevant. I mean, Sanctuary's cool, I guess, for undead. It's got Meditate, the highest tier, which is nice. And then you got Mother's Mercy and Mother's Blessing. So, I mean, these are kind of the two unique abilities. I'm not really going to cover the skills because I don't really even use these anyway, other than like recruitment. Mother's Blessing is the main distinguishing skill of a cleric that nobody else is going to have access to that can heal. So when I'm looking at the best healer in the game, it would be a cleric, because Mother's Blessing doubles the healing of the next spell. So that would be, if I'm going to like prioritize healing and have like the best healer, it would be a cleric. As much as I dislike the cleric, I mean, I can't state, you can't go against the facts here. So I wouldn't pick a rune fencer and like make them into a healer. I wouldn't prioritize healing on a rune fencer. I wouldn't prioritize healing on a knight or a white knight. I would do it on this guy. If I really wanted a dedicated healer, this is my only option. And if he didn't have Mother's Blessing, I would just delete the character in general because there's nothing different from anybody else healing. There's no other skills that the cleric has that benefits healing or does anything with healing. So at that point, I would use anybody else that can heal because they're going to heal just as good, which is kind of the main problem with cleric because this is an auto skill and I have gone 5 turns without this activating. I don't know how many turns you guys have gone without an auto skill going on that you really freaking need. I've gone like 3 turns with no meditate before, so that's always fun. But I've gone 5 turns with Mother's Blessing not proccing. It is the most frustrating thing. It's like, why are you here? What are you doing? You have no offense. A cleric has no offensive magic. That's another downside. If they just at least had like holy magic for offense, I would be okay with them to an extent. But anyway, I digress. We're not here to rant about the cleric. So those are my 2 things I look for. What's, you know, the gear, what's unique, and can I build this class differently than any other class? Those are the 3. So if I can't build it differently, like if we go to, what would be an example of a class I can't really build very differently? An archer. Archer's kind of a one-trick pony. You're going to give him a bow. If you don't give him a bow, I don't know why you're using them. So most archers are going to be built the same way because you don't have the option. I mean, I guess you could go, I mean, you can go dagger and a bow, but you're not going to go dual daggers or a dagger and a shield on an archer because all these skills, at least 3 of them, require ranged. And this is ranged too. So like that's just silly. Like what, just take, if you're going to do archer with like a melee build, just play a ranger. Go whip out Vice and just do a ranger build or something, or get at whatever his name is, the other guy that can be a ranger. I don't have him. I let him die because I'm a fool. But so see, that's kind of my point, what I look for in a class, what makes a class unique to me. It's never the gear, it's how can you build them, what's unique to them, and how do they work inside that, how can you utilize that, and can you do multiple builds? That's another huge thing. Can I do multiple different like variations of builds? Like a rune fencer can, or like, you know, some of the mages can, the casters. You know, is there only 1 build that works? Or is there 2, maybe even 3 builds that work? And some classes do have that, and it's really nice. And I don't really, off the top of my head, I really can't think of one that has like 3. But they're out there. There's a few that you can build quite different and get different results, which is really amazing. That's a huge like bonus points if you can make multiple different builds out of one class. Not talking about gear, not talking about weapons. Well, I guess, you know, you got one using a spear and one using like a sword or something. That's kind of different. But I'm more worried about the skills that the class has, you know, so. But hey, this is just my thoughts and opinions. This is what I look for. What makes a class good to me? Those are the 3 things. And that's how I see it. I'd be, like I said, curious to know what you guys look for in a class. What makes them good to you? You know, are you gear dependent? Does that really make or break what kind of gear it can use? And you're all for that? Because, I mean, that's fine if that's what you look for. There's no wrong way. You know, it's just an opinion, just a discussion. You know, it's like I like to get other people's insight, and I like to see how other people think about it, because I've drawn a lot of inspiration and I've had a lot of great ideas because of people that have recommended certain things or said, well, this is how I do it. And I've learned a lot through that. And hopefully, if people watch these videos and read the comments, they can learn a lot too, because I just want to share the knowledge and the love for this game and keep it alive and hope to see another one. You know, who knows, one day maybe. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate all your support, and I hope to see you in the next one. Until then, later guys. Peace out. Have a good one.